sewing garments actually when I was a teenager with my mom. Then in college, I sort of lost touch with my sewing self, but my husband and I moved to Seattle for 3 years, and that is where I got a job as a copywriter for a publishing company that published quilt books. And that is where my passion really got ignited, with an arsenal of people around me encouraging me to learn more about quilt making. That's where I started. Come on up, pup, it's okay. I've never thought of myself as having a specialty. I've always thought of myself as a jack of all trades. I have the skills to do anything I want fairly well. So for me, that means I have a little of garment experience in sewing, I have a little bit of quilt making experience, I have mending experience under my belt, and those things combined, I can do a lot of things, and it makes sewing and designing and dreaming more fun. I think my specialty started with thrift shopping. If you can believe, there are things to learn about thrift shopping from a mentor. It's true. My oldest sister, Susie, was a thrift shopper. She's 13 years older than me, so she knew a lot of the tricks of the trade, and I learned some things from her that helped me sort of hone in on thrift shopping and really make it a part of my life. I would say 98% of my wardrobe is now thrifted, and with that comes holes and sometimes problems, even fitting problems. I've learned how to adjust things in my clothing that I buy from the thrift store so that they fit me, they suit my style, and I love doing that. It's a whole process that I love to do. On the mending side, I think my sister Susie would be surprised that I would say that, but definitely her, because she got me started in this lifelong treasure hunt, which I really enjoy. It was a quilt that my sister and I made for our mom. She had saved a beautiful tablecloth that was full of these tiny doily motifs. We carefully cut out the small doily motifs, placed them in the center of a quilt block, and we put those quilt blocks into a quilt with sashing, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful and a testament to her mother and her skills as a crocheter. It was just wonderful to be able to give it to her and to have her enjoy her mom's work in a different way. I will tell you the most challenging thing is still in process, and it is a mending project. My mother-in-law gave me a linen tablecloth, and I don't even know how old it is, but it has beautiful embroidery on it and lots of holes within this very thin, fragile linen. I started to work on it, and I started by doing some embroidery stitches, and then I didn't like those, and I took those out, and that kind of created more holes, which was terrible. Then I started to think about darning with a very, very thin thread, and so I have been working on that for quite a while, and I have quite a ways to go. I don't know if it was a disaster, but when I was a beginning quilt maker, I was trying to quilt the quilt by myself on my machine, and anybody who's a quilt maker knows that takes practice. The pattern I had was called 21st Century Bullseye. It was a pattern designed by Country Threads, and it's really fun, a raw edge circular blocks. They're just wonderful and a lot of fun to make, and I'd love to make another one. But this was one of my first projects. I taped the backing onto my kitchen floor with packing tape, added the batting, added the top, thread basted the entire thing, quilted it, bound it, it was done. And then I realized when I would touch it in certain spots, it would crackle, and that was actually the packing tape that I had forgotten to remove. And so that quilt, as beautiful and fun as it is, crackles. I never have taken it apart because I just think it's kind of a fun lesson as a beginner, and it reminds me of what fun I had putting it together, and kind of how far I've come too. Well, obviously, I'm a big fan of Sulky threads. I love their embroidery threads. I love that they're on spools. It makes it so much easier than the skeins. I love the new filet that's come out. It's woolly and textury. And I love their stick and stitch, which I use all the time for embroidery and visible mending, such as boro stitching. I use that all the time, and make really precise stitches. Once I print that out on graph paper, it's wonderful. Well, I'll tell you about techniques. When I wrote my book, Visible Mending, I really wanted it to be a technique book, not a project book where you follow step by step, because who has the same hole or the same tear or the same stain or anything like that? Everybody's is going to be different. So it really had to be a technique book. In the book, I cover 5 different techniques that you can learn. And then when you approach a mend, you can translate it any way you want. Maybe you want to do boro stitching on it. Maybe you want to do patches and applique or patchwork. Maybe you want to embroider something to cover a hole or a stain. Maybe you want to darn something. Well, I love having all of those techniques at my disposal because it's just pure creativity after that. Once you know how to do those techniques, you can really go forward and just bring the mends on. Thanks for watching.